And good evening, I'm Tracy Sinclair here at our digital desk at Alaska's News Source. We have very early numbers coming in from the Anchorage Municipal Election. I will put in the election ticker so you can kind of see those going across, but we're going to go through most of these races one by one. We'll kind of talk a little bit about some of them. And of course, Rebecca Pulsha is going to be here to help us talk about a few of these bond propositions so important on this ballot. But let's start with one of the first races that we've been watching, District 1, Seat B. This is Chris Constant. This is over in North Anchorage. Now, Chris Constant is the incumbent at this point, a very handy lead. Now, we are looking at only about 9% of the ballots that have mailed out have been counted. So this is not even the number that have been sent in, but this is 9% of the ballots that have been sent out have been counted. So we still have a long way to go. We'll continue to see these counting, the counting continue over the next several days. These are unofficial results. Turning now to Seat C, which is District 2, Scott Myers, Jim Arlington. This is the Chugiak Eagle River area. A little bit closer here, we're seeing Scott Myers with 57% of the vote. Again, 11% of the ballots sent out have been sent back and have been recorded as of this time. Moving to Seat E, Anna Browley is winning it so far at 59%. There is 14% of those ballots have been returned. Of course, this is the area around West Anchorage. That's what covers Seat E. And turning now to District 4, Seat G, Felix Rivera, Travis Santo. Now, this is a race that we've been watching very closely. Felix Rivera is the incumbent in this race. Not a huge difference right now, 56% over compared to 44% for Travis Santo, and that is 13% of the ballots coming in so far that have been counted in that area. Taking a look over at Seat H. Now, this is a shorter term. We're filling 2 seats over in District 5. Karen Bronga and Lee Sloan. We've got 60% for Karen Bronga, and we're looking at Lee Sloan has 40% at this time, and we are looking at about 12%. Seat H and Seat I are both coming in from the East Anchorage area. So we're looking at George Martinez against Spencer Moore. Again, no incumbent in either of these races, but for Seat I, George Martinez at this point is a little bit ahead at 56%, with Spencer Moore having 44% of that 12% of the vote that has been counted so far. Turning now to Sig K, that's Zach Johnson. He is in the lead right now at 54%, 3,783 votes for him, 17%, so a little higher number of votes from that area that have been sent out and have been returned. 17% of those votes that have been sent out have been counted. Rachel Reese not far behind at 43%, and Mikkel Insulaco down at 3%. This is the area for South Anchorage, Girdwood, and Turnagain as well. Now, we're not only dealing with the election of the assembly members, but also we're looking at a couple of school board seats, 2 school board seats, and these numbers are a little bit different because these are citywide elections, so you're not just dealing with the region across the city, so the numbers of ballots returned are a little bit higher. Looking at Dave Donnelly against Irene Bowl, 16,272 for Dave Donnelly. He is the incumbent, that's 57%, and Irene has 43% of the vote. And also in the school board race, fairly close race for this one as well, 15,512. Andy Holloman, again, the incumbent, that's 13% of the vote that has been sent out. It has been counted so far. Mark Anthony Cox has 45%. Now, we were able to catch up with Mark Anthony Cox earlier today. This was before the first votes came through.
How do you feel your campaign has gone thus far now that you're here on Election Day, you know, in the final hours of this?
We've done the best we could. I mean, we've got a lot of help in regards to people who've been able to help with our campaign, as well as prayers going up. So, I mean, once we've done our part, we just leave it up to God.
A lot of work has obviously gone into this. What are you hoping for when it comes to what you're about to see from the Anchorage School Board, whether you're part of that or not?
When it comes moving forward with the Anchorage School Board, the goal is to make the city a better place through the proficiency that we're going to be able to give our kids, and working well with our parents, you know, the ones who entrust us with their children in order to give them education. That's going to involve, of course, all interested stakeholders. That's the teachers, the support faculty, the administrators, and I look forward to having that opportunity to work with them because it's going to take all of us in order to make a difference.
And that was Mark Anthony Cox. He is running for the school board here in the Anchorage area, running against Andy Holloman. At this point, Andy Holloman, the incumbent, is in the lead. Number of propositions. There were actually 15 propositions that went out on the city ballot, a number of smaller ones in the different regions across the city as well. But we're going to talk first about the Anchorage School District bond. So I'm going to ask Rebecca Polsha, you've been watching this very closely over the last several weeks. Here is what the numbers show right now. We've got 16,379 yes votes, 13,636 for no votes. Very early on, again, 13% of the ballots sent out have been counted at this point. What does that say to you? You've been watching this pretty closely.
You know, that's pretty interesting because this is a second time that this has come up. The first time we voted for this one, it was a much larger bond package, but it was for the same things such as security, vegetables, and security entrances put in, bulletproof glass, as well as doing things like seismic upgrades to roofs and replacing roofs at one school in particular. A lot of this built on safety, security, and just stuff that has to be done, including making some buildings compliant with ADA, American for Disabilities Act. So what's interesting about this time around, this bond is much smaller. But it does appear, at this point at least, that voters are more willing to talk about this and approve this one at this point. Again, early at night, 13%. We're going to get results every day at 5:30. So just continue on till 5:30 every day.
Yeah, we're just going to keep counting these as the Anchorage Municipal Election Office continues to count these votes. We will get them and report them to you every night on Alaska's News Source and, of course, on our digital desk as well. Now, one of the things that I found was interesting, I was looking at a lot of not only the numbers, and as you said, this was a slightly smaller bond proposition. I also found that I was looking through how much does it take to retire the bond, and in this case, $8.33 approximately for every $100,000 of assessed home value. That would increase your property taxes. A lot of the candidates that we talked to for the Assembly really spoke a lot about wanting to bring down property taxes, but looking at this, it looks like people are still possibly willing to invest in some things, even if we are.
It does seem to appear that way. In fact, when you look at the park propositions, those are also passing at this point as well, which does increase property taxes. And those are for things that are beyond safety and security. And so at this point, it does feel that people are willing to pay for things and upgrade things. And there's that Parks and Rec bond with about 58% saying yes to 42% saying no.
Yeah, so it is interesting that we are seeing those ones that actually could increase your property taxes are still, in many cases, or in at least several of the cases, passing through. One of the other issues that's interesting is using the marijuana retail tax amendment for education.
So this is an ongoing, this is for child advocates who work in child advocacy. This is something that's an ongoing problem, not just in Alaska, but across the country, the lack of affordable child care. In fact, like not just the lack of affordable child care, but quality child care. And this then impacts your workforce because then those people can't go to work and you have perhaps at some points you have one parent taking off because they have sick children or because they have not found quality care or can't afford this quality care. You have less people in the workforce, which is a large problem at this point. So with this one, this money would use our city marijuana or cannabis taxes to pay for early childhood advocacy programs and early childhood K through 12 programs. And it's interesting because when we looked at the statewide ballot, that's what our taxes were supposed to be used for as well, not just rehab centers and things like that, but it also was for education programs like the Boys and Girls Club. So this one takes the city percent of the taxes and dedicates it to childhood advocacy programs, and that we make about $5 to $6 million a year on city taxes for cannabis in Anchorage.
Okay, so we're being told that you can't hear us. I'm going to check over real fast. I know that our signal is going out. So give me just a second and we will see if it certainly looks like we're going out. So we will have somebody here check at the station to see if our signal is actually going out. It looks like it is, so I apologize if it's not. Again, our system is showing that we are broadcasting, so we will go ahead and continue to continue on until we find out if something is different. So again, thank you very much. Rebecca Palsha is joining us here, and I'm going to jump back over and we're going to look at a few more of those bond propositions because there are a number of them out there. And Rebecca, if you can go check the audio and see if they're hearing us or not, or if I'm talking to myself. So thank you so much for joining us here. Once again, we are live at our digital desk talking about those early results. And we also have a couple reporters in the field that I'm hoping that we can catch up with in a few minutes that we could, so we will keep an eye out for them. This is, of course, live, and so we'll be trying to pick up our reporters as they are out and about. But let's take a look at a few of those other propositions. We are seeing the public transportation, public safety, and transit bonds. Again, we've been talking about how this would increase the property tax for the Anchorage area. This was Proposition 2. This would be a 96-cent increase in property taxes per $100,000 of assessed property value to retire the proposed bonds. Again, it's passing at 58%. 13% of the vote. Almost all of the propositions, because they are citywide, will have the same amount reporting, and that is 13% of the votes of the ballots that were sent out have been counted at this point. So we still have a number of days to go before any of these close to final results. Taking a look at the roads and storm drainage bonds, pretty overwhelming. This one's got a pretty good difference. 18,577 votes in the yes category. That is for road and stormage drainage bonds here in the Anchorage area. It's looking to providing roads and storm drainage capital acquisition, construction, renovation, and upgrades to Anchorage roads in the service area. This would increase the annual your property tax by $9.33, with an additional 39 cents for operation and maintenance. 62% of people in Anchorage are saying yes, they want that. For the Anchorage area, fire protection bonds. This one is replacing fire engine trucks and making some facility improvements in the Anchorage area. Again, pretty heavily toward the yes side, very early on in that vote counting, but we will continue to watch those over the next several days. Chugiak fire protection bonds. So not everyone voted on this, but we are seeing that for the residents in Chugiak, that would be a $2.53 increase in property taxes. Again, looking at a heavy leaning toward the yes. That is for acquiring a rescue truck for the Chugiak Volunteer Fire Department in the service area. And one of the other interesting ones that wasn't actually speaking about adding cost to property taxes was the Chugach State Park Access Service Area. So what this would do, it would include certain areas that we would then basically vote on later whether we wanted to improve them. And at that point, there would be an increase in property taxes. But at this point, this is just a yes or no. Do we want to put this in the future realm? So at this point, most area people in Anchorage are saying yes, that they are interested in doing that. And we also have a few annexations. And the other interesting one was the tax exemption, property tax exemption. That one, as expected, was pretty heavily at this point. 74% of the votes coming in saying yes, 26% of the votes coming in saying no. We are, as I said, we do have several reporters out in the field, one of which is Joe Cadott, and I'm hoping if Joe can find me. No, not seeing that Joe is out and about. Let's start back at the top. We do want to go through a couple more of these, and we did talk to several other candidates as they were out and about. We started first with Chris Constant. This is District Assembly Seat 1, and with Chris Constant, pretty heavy leaning towards the incumbent at this point. 2,000 votes. A little over 2,000 votes have been going toward Chris Constant. John Trueblood also in there at 23%, and Nick Danger at 12%. For that next race, Seat C, and that is Chugiak, Eagle River, and J-Bear. Scott Myers at 57% of the vote, with Jim Arlington at 43% of the vote. And in Seat E, we've got Anna Brawley, Brian Flynn, and Dustin Darden. Anna Brawley in the lead at this point, with 14% of the votes that were sent out being returned and counted at this point. She has 59% of the votes coming through. This is an interesting race. Felix Rivera is the incumbent for seat G. This is his third term. This would be his third term if he succeeds in winning the seat. 2,767 votes for him compared to Travis Santo at 2,172. Now, we did catch up with Mr. Santo earlier in the evening. Again, this was before any results came out, and our reporter Beth Verge caught up with him to see how he thought the race was going.
I really didn't know how to take it, being our first race, but I think I just like to stress that we did our best, and we are doing everything that we could to get out to the people and talk to as many people as we could, get their opinions on what was going on in the city, and making sure that we will represent the people for Anchorage.
Residents have been looking at the Assembly and the administration and looking perhaps for more teamwork and unity. What do you bring to the table if you are elected to this position?
I would have to say willingness to chat with anybody, willingness to talk. Let's have it out at the table. Let's talk about all the opportunities that we have and which ones are going to work best for the people of Anchorage.
That was Travis Santo. He is running against Felix Rivera for District 4, Seat G. At this point, very close race, so we'll continue to keep watch on that, as we will for all of the races coming through. Another race that is proving to be quite interesting, Karen Bronga with 2,610 votes. To Lee Sloan, she's got 1,723 votes. And then also, these are both East Anchorage. Seat H and Seat I are both in District 5. Both seats up for election at this point. George Martinez with 2,422 votes. And let's also take a quick look at the school board seat candidates. We are looking at Dave Donnelly, 16,272 votes. This is a citywide ballot, so that's why we see 13% of all of the votes sent out across the city of Anchorage. Irene Bowl has 12,099 votes. That's 57% to 43% of the ballots. And in the other school board seat, Andy Holloman at 15,512. That's 55% of the vote compared to Mark Anthony Cox at 45% of the vote. We will have full coverage on all of these races, as well as talking to several of the candidates. We've got reporters Beth Verge and Joe Cadot out and about in the city of Anchorage talking to several of the candidates. So we will have all of them tonight at 10 o'clock on Alaska's News Source. You'll want to join us then. We'll keep you updated if more results come in. We'll jump back here onto the digital desk. At this point, I'm Tracy Sinclair. Keep watching Alaska's News Source, and you'll also be able to watch that ticker down at the bottom that will give you the most up-to-date results through the evening. Have yourself a great evening,